And now, lastly, the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, like obviously the biggest positive that came away from the Philly season was Bryce Harper taking home the National League MVP award. I know it got close towards the end of there, but he was able to go ahead and take that award home for Philadelphia. Something good to come out of this baseball season.
Something.
Yeah, so what were some other positives that came out of the Philly season? Because I can't think of too many of them.
So you had that, obviously, the Bryce Harper MVP, and then Zach Wheeler almost had that Cy Young award, which would have been huge for the Phillies, but obviously he became runner-up. So it wasn't what they hoped for, but that's still a great achievement to have for the Phillies, somebody that wasn't so successful last year. So that's a great thing. And then you had some young prospects step up here and there throughout the season. Nobody that's really like too exciting for the future. But I mean, it's nice, that comfort backbone, to see also that the farm system's not as terrible as we may think. But Nick Maton, Luke Williams, Matt Verling, they all stepped up last year. A really bright spot was Ranger Suarez coming into that starting rotation in August and then really proving himself and kind of surprising everybody, maybe even himself too. I mean, when he first came into the system, he did have starting rotation ability, and then he kind of moved to the bullpen and moved back. So he's been back and forth, so he always had that ability. But that was a very, very positive thing to see. And then one thing in the minor leagues that was awesome was Bryson Stott. He had a great year. He's really exciting for the future, and they actually added him to the 40-man for this year. So that's going to be exciting. Last year, in about 112 minor league games, I think it was mostly all AA games, but he had a 299 batting average and then an 876 OPS and then a 318 batting average in the Arizona Fall League with a 934 OPS. So that's some really bright positivity that you want to see going into this upcoming season.
Yeah, let's hope so. As far as another positive now, as me passing, we all go through the internet and Twitter and things like that. I know Rhys Hoskins was a big topic of conversation. Is he more of a positive or a negative after the season?
I think he's kind of in that idle zone where, like, you did like to see he did step up his game at the bat or at the plate towards the end of the year, and he kind of got his bat back. But then he still has some injury questions. He still has some
production questions.
Consistency.
Sure.
Yeah, consistency is like his biggest thing. So that's one thing that, like, I'm not down on him yet, and I don't think he was a negative by any means in 2021, but I don't think he obviously was a reason for winning because they didn't make playoffs. But I don't think he's a bright spot either. He's kind of just in that middle zone right now.
That's fair. Now, as we all know, plenty of negatives to go around. Like you just mentioned, failed to make the playoffs for the 10th consecutive season. As I know, the bullpen continues to be a topic conversation. What were some things that were not so great to come away from the 2021 Phillies?
Yes, it hurts your heart, man. They're always so close. So, like you already said, the bullpen, that's always a problem. The Phillies just are inconsistent, and that's one of their biggest problems. They'll have a great stretch and lead the division, but then what
happened after the Mets series? That was like after that, it was like we was all hands on deck after that.
Well, and that's the problem is they can be inconsistent. I mean, the baseball season's so long. You can be inconsistent in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, whatever, as long as you get back on track. But what really matters is that month of September. And they went 14-16 in their final 30 games while they were in a playoff push against Atlanta, and then they just let the ball drop. And I mean, they had 2 4-game losing streaks in September. So, like,
that'll do it.
You can't have that. And it's just like, it makes you wonder, like, what are these pieces? Like, why can't they stay consistent? Is it coaching? Is it the bullpen? And that's what is worrisome, is it's always something else, it seems like, for the Phillies. And then also, I already mentioned the farm system, how it was nice to see some bright spots, but usually it's negative. So the negatives from that, Spencer Howard didn't pan out. They had to send him to the Rangers. They did get some good pieces back from that, but you never like to see a key top number 1 prospect at one point have to get traded. Scott Kingry, obviously, he's not turned into anything. He ended up getting DFA'd and then sent back down. And then he ended up needing shoulder surgery. So he only played 23 games in the minor leagues, only batted 181. Not what you want to see that you're paying $20 million to. And then also, another worrisome thing going into 2021 is the fact that the front office, I mean, obviously they're in a lockout right now and you can't do anything in a lockout. But the front office, they just never want to spend over the luxury tax. And if they really want to increase their team, that's what's holding them back, is just getting another starting pitcher, building that bullpen, getting an outfielder. And they don't want to spend over that. And it's worrisome that they were idle before the lockout happened.
And you start spending some money. Who's spending money? Is it the Mets that have been spending crazy money, or
the Mets have pulled in? Everybody basically in the NL East has pulled in at least one name. You know what I mean?
Who just got Scherzer? Somebody spent big money on Scherzer.
The Mets, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so it's always somebody else in the
cheap,
NL East trying to build it up. But that's what's so frustrating is the Phillies, they always they never spend the luxury tax, and it's frustrating in that part. But then they keep you holding on, and they do that back and forth, and they're like, they are good. They have Bryce Harper to carry them.
The whole city does that, man. It ain't just the Phillies.
It is, and that's you're so right, and that's what's just so frustrating. So you look at all that. There's guys that they could have gotten, they didn't, and they need. And then looking forward to 2022, one of my biggest questions, I think, and a lot of people are asking, is if once the lockout obviously finishes, hopefully it does soon, if Alec Boehm is really going to be who they choose to continue forward with, and if they're going to go out and try to get Chris Bryant or somebody else for a third base talent. But I personally think this next year, you give Alec Boehm one more chance to try to fix his bat. He's got that loopy swing, and the Phillies did commit by getting a new hitting coordinator in there. So hopefully that kind of switches it over, but we'll see. I mean, it's Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's good and there's bad. Unfortunately, in Philadelphia, all of 2021, all across the board, it's been 60-40 this year.
That's being generous.
I know. And want to know how you know it's bad, Vic? The team that kind of picked it up this year and gave us some hope
is the Wings.
Lacrosse. I was going to say the Eagles. The Eagles gave us more excitement than we expected.
Yeah,
all the other teams we expected a lot going into the season didn't get quite that. The Eagles, nobody had any expectations for, so all they did was take us up.
We had no expectations, yet we're still disappointed throughout the first stretch of the season. And now, unless we crash and burn and lose these final two games, it looks like they'll have a playoff berth to be excited about. And it looks like some people are not excited about Jalen Hurts progressing because so many people wanted to be right about Jalen Hurts and say he's not a good passer, which we know he needs development, but everybody's saying, we need a right passer. Minshew, he made this passing offense fluid and all this stuff. But and we all get a lot of flack on the internet for this, and we'll wrap up with this, is that we all get a lot of flack for not giving up on players. I do anyway, because I didn't want to give up on Carson, evidently. Didn't want to give up on Ben Simmons, and now look at that. And I don't want to give up on Jalen Hurts. And I think a big reason for that, the Eagles specifically, is because we had the Kevin Cobbs and the Bradfords and the Vicks. We didn't have QB stability. So when Carson Wentz showed up and gave us a taste of QB stability, we all latched onto that. And now he's gone, and we're looking for the next answer, and hopefully it's Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and I agree. And there is some positivity all around that we can look going into 2022, as there's because that's the frustrating part about Philly is you're always so close, but they have good pieces. So the Eagles, they have Hurts, they have Smith, some positivities, they have Sanders, young guys that can build. Going over to the Sixers, you got Joel Embiid that they can still have hope around. The Flyers, you have...
Windows closing.
I know. The Flyers, you have Carter Hart, who's still young. You have Kevin Hayes. You got Ivan Provorov. You got a lot of young names that kind of are building pieces. Right. And then obviously the Phillies, you got Bryce Harper for 10 more years. You got JT Realmuto. You got Rhys Hoskins. You got Alec Boehm that can kind of, you hope, turn into what they can. So there's positivity there. 2021 wasn't the best year for it.
Thank God for that Super Bowl.
But here's the hoping that 2022, Philadelphia turns it around and we see some more playoff bursts, hopefully, for everybody.
Exactly.